Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As it is now 10 a.m., the meeting is called to order. This is the annual stockholders meeting of A. Soriano Corporation. We are conducting this meeting virtually or through video conference in consideration of the health and safety of our stockholders, employees, and directors, and because of the restriction on public gathering imposed by the government since March 16, 2020. Allow me to introduce my fellow presenters for this meeting. Joining me here at the principal office of A. Soriano Corporation in Makati City is our Corporate Secretary, Attorney Lorna Pataho Kapunan. Our Chairman of the Board of the Directors, Mr. Andres Soriano III, who is with us virtually. A while ago, as our usual practice, your directors had a board meeting conducted virtually as well. My fellow directors are also participating through the live stream of this annual meeting, which may be accessed through our website. Representatives of our external auditor, CICIP Gores Velayo & Company, are also present in person here at the company's office to validate our voting results. I have been appointed by the Board of Directors to act as the presiding officer for this annual meeting. Ms. Secretary, please certify to the proof of notice of this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. As Corporate Secretary of A. Soriano Corporation, I hereby certify that in accordance with the revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, the provision of the bylaws of the corporation, SEC Memorandum Circular Number 6, issued on March 12, 2020, and SEC Notice dated April 20, 2020, the Notice of Annual Meeting with Stockholders, and the procedure for registration, participation, and voting in the 2020 Annual Stockholders Meeting of A. Soriano Corporation were published in full in the business section of two newspapers of general circulation, namely the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the Daily Tribune on May 18 and 19, 2020. Likewise, digital copies of the Notice of Annual Meeting of Stockholders and the procedure for this annual meeting, the definitive information statement, and the annual report of the company have all been uploaded and may be viewed in the Philippine Stock Exchange EDGE and the company's website. Finally, copies of the Notice of Annual Meeting and the procedure for this annual meeting, definitive information statement, and the annual report in CD format were sent by mail or messengerial service prior to this annual meeting to all stockholders of record as of March 16, 2020 at their respective addresses.
Thank you. Ms. Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Mr. Presiding Officer, I hereby certify that 2,263,098,438 shares of stock, or 90.52% of the issued and outstanding capital stock of the corporation, are represented either by proxy or are present through remote communication in accordance with our procedure for this annual meeting. There is therefore a quorum.
Thank you. The meeting will now proceed with the consideration and approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on April 10, 2019. Ms. Secretary, can you please explain and inform us of the voting results for this item?
The minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on April 10, 2019 have been available for examination by the stockholders in the office of the corporate secretary this past year. Also, a digital copy of the minutes have been posted since last year in the company's website. Management is proposing for the approval of the resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved that the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on April 10, 2019 be as it is hereby approved. On the voting results, 2,263,081,271 shares of stock, or 90.52%, of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company have voted in favor of the resolution either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system in accordance with our procedure for this annual meeting. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the annual report for 2019. The digital copy of the annual report has been posted in the company's website, and a copy in CVD format have been distributed in advance to the stockholders. May we now invite the chairman to give the highlights of the 2019 annual report, which includes the financial results for the year ended December 31st, 2019, and the operation reports of our subsidiaries and affiliates.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow shareholders, and welcome to our annual stockholders meeting. This year, we are meeting virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has most of the country subjected to some form of quarantine or restrictions. On behalf of the whole Anscor Group, we would like to express our most sincere thanks and appreciation to the members of our community, our doctors, nurses, medical aides, security forces, the Andres Soriano Foundation, and everyone who selflessly has given to continue the fight against this pandemic and being on the front lines for us all. Thank you. In 2019, Philippine gross domestic product grew by 5.9%, modestly lower than the 6.2% registered in 2018. On a positive note, inflation moderated from last year's 5.2% to an average of 2.5%, and the Philippine Stock Exchange Index increased by 4.7%. Anscor's consolidated total revenues grew to 10.7 billion pesos from 9.8 billion pesos in 2018, resulting in a net income of 1.8 billion pesos from 800 million pesos in 2018. Profit was driven by a 1 billion peso increase in the market value of traded securities, namely International Container Terminal Services, Inc., ICTSI, YMAbs Therapeutics, Inc., a US-listed biotechnology company, and another year of strong performance from Phelps Dodge International Philippines. Your company also reported higher dividend income and management fees and a decline in overhead and interest expense. Parent company debt of $2.25 million was fully paid at the end of March 2020. The company's book value per share increased from 15 pesos to 33 centavos, from 15 pesos and 33 centavos to 15 pesos and 95 centavos as of December 31, 2019. A regular cash dividend of 25 centavos per share was paid on April 10, 2019, and a bonus dividend of 25 centavos on December 18, 2019, for a total dividend of 50 centavos for the year. Phelps Dodge International Philippines, Inc., PDP, achieved a milestone profit of 804 million pesos as an unanticipated drop in copper prices lowered input costs, and at the same time, strong demand underpinned prices. Although public construction slowed, private construction grew by 13.8% from 11.5% in the previous year. Direct sales to developers, contractors, and general consumers were all strong during the year, especially in the provinces. PDP paid Anscor cash dividend of 250 million pesos and management fees of just under 100 million pesos in 2019. Amampulo improved total revenues to 1.1 billion pesos due to an 8% increase in the average room rate, but net profit fell to 213.8 million pesos, as the average occupancy was 54%, a modest drop from the previous year. The resort received multiple awards and nominations from leading publications. AGMP revenues reached $178.4 million, although upfront development expenses for natural gas projects in India resulted in a net loss of $24.4 million for 2019. However, with a new equity investment and groundbreaking expected to begin in India, AGMP hopes to establish itself as a leading player in the downstream gas logistics business. Its domestic manufacturing base in Batangas continues to do well. Atram Investment Management Partners Corporation ended 2019 with assets under management of 138.7 billion pesos, 29% higher than in 2018, due to inflows from both existing and new clients and market gains. It launched 5 new feeder funds in 2019 that grew to 6.1 billion pesos in AUM. KSA Realty Corporation, owner of the Enterprise Center, had an occupancy rate of 98%, with rents growing to an average of 1,430 pesos per square meter, from 1,320 pesos per square meter in 2018. Revenue was 1.4 billion pesos in 2019, from 1.3 billion pesos in 2018. Net income increased by 16.6%, from 964 million pesos in 2018 to 1.1 billion pesos in 2019. KSA paid a cash dividends of 1.4 billion pesos, of which 189.9 million pesos accrued to Anscor. A portion of your company's assets are dedicated to early stage and private equity investments. Y-mAbs Therapeutics Inc., mentioned earlier, is a late-stage clinical biopharmaceutical company developing products to treat cancer, and had a successful initial public offering on the NASDAQ in September 2018. It generated an unrealized capital gain for your company of $8 million as of the end of last year. Medicat Healthcare, an innovative US software service platform, automating healthcare data management processes that had 1.2 million providers under contract for electronic data interchange enrollment, while Medify, a Philippine-based online healthcare platform that connects doctors and patients, has seen considerable increase in traffic, especially with COVID-19. In 2019, your company committed to invest $10 million in Navigar 2 LP, a Philippine-focused private equity fund that began deploying funds in early 2020. Anscor has a total investment in Sierra Madre Philippines 1 LP, also a Philippine-based private equity fund, of $2.2 million against a commitment of $9 million. The fund's investments consist of a logistics and a semiconductor services company. The Andres Soriano Foundation's strategic plan is aligned with the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals as it continues its key programs of small island sustainable development, cancer care, and disaster relief response and rehabilitation. Further to the requirement of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Anscor initiated its first corporate sustainability report, adopting the Global Reporting Initiative Sustainability Reporting Standards. Your foundation continues with its program this year, albeit at a different pace and interaction with communities served as a consequence of quarantine. Your company's outlook for 2020 is tempered by the hard realities of the still unfolding COVID-19 pandemic that continues to impact people and economies across the globe. The Philippine Stock Exchange has fallen from 7,815 points at the end of 2019 to 6,164 points as of June 15, 2020. As a result, losses are expected from the decrease in value of your company's holdings in traded securities. We, however, expect these to fully recover over the next 12 months. At PDP, we anticipate the real estate industry to slow down as developers anticipate lower demand and are reassessing their capital plans. We expect the government's infrastructure projects to continue at its pre-COVID-19 pace as it pursues programs to stimulate the Philippine economy. I'm happy to say that as of June 15, 2020, Phelps Dodge is now operating at 70% capacity, and AGNP, as said earlier, is operating its yards in Batangas. Occupancy at Amampulo will be materially lower in 2020, as domestic and international travel have been severely restricted. On a positive note, though, we are expecting to open the resort next week on June 26. Associate companies, AGNP and ATRAM, that have also been affected by the virus are now beginning to operate. Your company is prepared in these difficult times. Anscor has a strong balance sheet, no debt, and cash is available to meet its investments, commitments, and overhead. To help shareholders weather the pandemic crisis, on April 27, 2020, Anscor paid 25 centavos per share of a regular and 50 centavos per share of a special cash dividend, for a total of 75 centavos from the sale of liquid securities, primarily from the first 2 months of the year. We will continue to secure and prioritize the safety and health of our employees, our customers and guests, and support the communities we serve. We miss the wisdom of Mr. John L. Gokongwei Jr., our director for 39 years, who passed away on November 9, 2019. He will be remembered for his legacy as a business leader, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. Our sincerest appreciation to our shareholders for your trust and confidence, to our board of directors for their guidance and the dedication of our employees. On behalf of our board of directors, thank you and good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the comprehensive report. We will now entertain questions from the stockholders. And for this purpose, we received a question sent through email at registration@anscor.com.ph in accordance with our procedure for this annual meeting. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the question?
Yes, Mr. Presiding Officer. The question is, with the easing of the community quarantine restrictions and the resumption of operations of the company, how will you ensure the safety of your employees, guests, clients, or customers?
Thank you, Ms. Corporate Secretary. We will follow the strict guidelines set by the government. We will also be following international standards that we have been monitoring. For example, for the opening of the resort, we will start the procedure to check the health of our guests before they actually enter the hangar in Pasay. At our plants, we have strict procedures for our employees when they enter. We are employing company-wide transportation for our employees at the head office. So we're following all the protocols and more to ensure the safety of our people. I'm pleased to say, though, that during the lockdown, we have not had to let anyone go. We have fully paid our employees to date, and we expect to do so down the road. I trust this answers the question.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since there are no more further questions, the next item is the approval of the 2019 annual report and the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019, copies of which in CD format have been previously distributed to the stockholders and also uploaded in the company's website. Ms. Secretary, will you please inform us of the proposed resolution and the voting results for this particular item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved that the 2019 annual report and the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2019 be as it is hereby approved. On the voting results, 2,263,081,271 shares of stock, or 90.52% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. The next item of business is the election of directors. Ms. Secretary, will you please inform us of the nominations received?
Mr. Presiding Officer, pursuant to Section 3A of Article 4 of the Bylaws of the Corporation, the following were duly nominated on March 2, 2020. Mr. Andres Soriano III, Mr. Eduardo J. Soriano, Mr. Ernest K. Cuyegkeng, Mr. Johnson Robert G. Go Jr., Mr. Oscar J. Ilado, Mr. Jose C. Ibateta, and Mr. Alfonso S. Yuchenko III. Mr. Oscar J. Ilado and Mr. Alfonso S. Yuchenko III are nominated as the independent directors of the company. On the voting results, all the nominees for election as directors have garnered at least 312,500,001 votes, which is the minimum number of votes required for election as directors of the company. They are hereby declared, therefore, as the duly elected members of the Board of Directors for the ensuing year.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary, and congratulations to the incoming board. The next item of business is the amendment of the first 4 paragraphs of Article 9 of the company's Articles of Incorporation on the reclassification of unlisted and unissued 5 million common shares of stock with par value of 1 peso per share into 500 million preferred shares with a par value of 1 centavo per share. Ms. Secretary, can you please inform us of the proposed resolution and the voting results for this item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the following resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved that the first 4 paragraphs of Article 9 of the Articles of Incorporation of the company be as it is hereby amended to read as follows. The authorized capital stock of the corporation is 3,464,310,958 pesos, Philippine currency, and said capital stock is divided into 3,459,310,958 common shares with a par value of 1 peso per share and 500 million preferred shares with a par value of 1 centavo per share. The preferred shares of stock may be issued to Philippine nationals or foreign persons or entities. The holders of preferred shares shall have the same voting rights as the holders of the common shares. The holders of the preferred shares shall not be entitled to dividends. The holders of the preferred shares shall share with the holders of common shares in the distribution of the remaining assets of the corporation in case of liquidation, based on the par value of the shares held by them after the satisfaction of all legitimate obligations of the corporation to third parties in accordance with law. On the voting resolutions, 2,242,295,956 shares of stock, or 89.69% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. The next item of business is the amendment of the last paragraph of Article 9 of the Articles of Incorporation on the denial of preemptive rights of stockholders for shares issued by the corporation. Ms. Secretary, will you please inform us of the proposed resolution and the voting results for this item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the following resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved, that the last paragraph of Article 9 of the Articles of Incorporation of the company be, as it is hereby amended, to read as follows. Stockholders shall have no preemptive rights in shares of stock which are issued by the corporation. On the voting results, 2,242,295,956 shares of stock, or 89.69% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution, either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you. The next item of business is the amendment of the first paragraph of Article 13 of the Articles of Incorporation to indicate that a two-thirds vote of the stockholders required for any amendment of the Articles of Incorporation applies to all the outstanding shares of stock of the corporation, whether common or preferred. Ms. Secretary, can you please inform us of the proposed resolution and the voting results for this item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the following resolution as flashed in your screen. Resolved, that the first paragraph of Article 8 of the Articles of Incorporation of the company be as it is hereby amended to read as follows. The corporation reserves the right to amend, alter, substitute, or revoke all or any of the clauses or provisions established in these articles of incorporation in the form and manner authorized by the existing laws or its amendments in the future, provided and whenever the stockholders representing two-thirds of the outstanding shares of stock so agree, and all the rights and powers granted to the stockholders, directors, officers, and agents of the corporation are subject to the same reservation. On the voting results, 2,263,081,271 shares of stock, or 90.52% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution, either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you. The next item of business is the appointment of your corporation's external auditors. Management has proposed the appointment of CICIP Gores Velayo and Company. Ms. Secretary, can you please inform us of the voting results for this item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved, that CICIP Gores Velayo and Company be, as it is hereby appointed as the external auditors of the company. On the voting results, 2,263,081,271 shares of stock, or 90.52% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution, either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you. The next item of business is the ratification of all acts, contracts, investments, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since the last annual meeting, as set forth in the minutes book, the annual report, the audited financial statements, or as disclosed in reports to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange. Ms. Secretary, will you please inform us of the proposed resolution and the voting results for this item?
Management is proposing for the approval of the resolution flashed in your screen. Resolved that all acts, contracts, investments, and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since the last annual meeting, as set forth in the minutes book, the annual report, the audited financial statements, or as disclosed in reports to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange, be, as it is hereby approved. On the voting results, 2,263,081,271 shares of stock, or 90.52% of the total outstanding shares of stock of the company, have voted in favor of the resolution, either by proxy or through the online stockholders voting system. The resolution is therefore approved.
Thank you very much for all for the confidence. Now, if there are no other matters that the stockholders wish to take up, on behalf of our chairman and the board of directors, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks and appreciation to our officers and staff for their support and dedication to the company, and to you, our fellow stockholders, for your continued support and confidence in your company. We will now entertain a motion for adjournment of the meeting.
I am Jose D. Cayobit, a stockholder. I move to adjourn the meeting.
I am Minda Orozco, a stockholder. I second the motion.
We now have a motion and seconded. The meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.